Hello, people. We're back with the IEEE MNSU Podcast. I'm here with Ekwegbalum Unachukwu.
Unachukwu.
Unachukwu. He's the vice president of our chapter, and we're here to talk, chop it up, and have some interesting conversations. So, welcome, Ekwem. Well, I call him Ekwem. We all call him Ekwem.
Yeah.
It's very rare someone calls him Ekwegbalum. That's why I was struggling.
Yeah, trust me, even people back at home struggle. When they get very angry, they have to kind of like speak in two phases. They're like, and it just sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, come here. So, it's like,
Someone's mad at you and they're calling you by their nickname.
Yeah, they just couldn't help because it just seems ridiculous when they couldn't pronounce it when they're very, very angry. And they're like, it just, and then I'll just end up laughing. I couldn't take them serious.
Yeah, but introduce yourself for the podcast.
All right, so let's get straight to it. My name is Ekwegbalum Unachukwu. The first name was the name given to me by my grandfather on my fraternal side. I am a double major in computer engineering and hopefully computer science, but right now it's just currently computer information science. I do have my AS degree from Normandale. That's where I got it from. I am a veteran of the Minnesota National Guard. I've done that for 6 years. I got called back for 1 year, so it was a total of 7. Then I have served my community as a AmeriCorps volunteer and a tutor. So I definitely improved the literacy from K to, middle school, I guess. But it was not in a stretch. I did it in different petitions. So like 3 summers, and then 2 school years while I was still in college. And then I think I've lived by myself, no dog, no cat, no this thing. And I think I've been very close to my family. And one of the interesting things about me is that I love learning. I love chess playing. I do kayaking.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, I do kayaking. I do archery. I do have a crossbow, and I do have a target and stuff. I do bike riding. I do have a maintenance kit. I do chess playing too. I think one of the latest things at tech is video gaming.
Okay.
And then I wish to get back into tennis again. Not table tennis, the actual big tennis again.
Wow.
And then I used to play basketball, but I think I'm all out of whack right now. My knees, I think one of my knees, the cartilage seems to be wearing out. So I can't really, I have a stress point on my knee. So I can't really do as much, but I have my limits. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. How old are you?
Okay, so most people, you take a guess.
I would guess 31.
Oh, that's so sweet. A lot of people don't know my age, but I'm actually 42.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So I eat well, work out well, take good care of myself, try to
avoid as much
stress.
You got to look out, especially if you have knee problems and stuff. Basketball is not going to do it. But so tell me about like your life when you grew up, your background. What was your like early environment?
Hey, where do I start?
Where do you start?
So I would say my whole entire life starts back in Nigeria, in Kano, which is the north central part of Kano. By then, it was 30 states before it split into 36 in 1996 under the Abacha regime.
Oh.
The regime that at the time I think was Babangida, General Babangida.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, so I was born in Murtala Muhammad in Kano. It was mostly Islamic. It was an Islamic state.
Okay.
One of the 7 Islamic states. It was also a caliphate as well. So for those who do not know what a caliphate is, it's like a small kingdom. Okay, and you have the emir. Then you do have a sultan, which is in Sokoto, and out of that, those things represent the Islamic State. But there's also native cultures, which is the Hausa and the Fulani. But we also have migrants like myself who basically got myself situated with the family, and I'm a 5th born. So I was born in Murtala Muhammad Hospital. Back then was I think when the economy was still good and stable, I think that's where I got born in. And then I grew up, I think, 9 years in the north, then spent some time Central Belt, went down south, and then spent some time on the other side around Lagos around Lagos or Ogun or Osun State. And then I've been back and forth to Anambra. My dad's hometown is Ogidi. It's a big hometown now. Back then, it was just like a small village. I kind of love walking in the red sand. It was very comfortable, very quiet, very calm. So I grew up there. And then there was Modern City. So there's Enugu State. It's Coal City State. Back then when coal was thriving, but not anymore. So I grew up all over the country.
Wow.
But
Yeah, no, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, I can tell you that at some times in my life, it was stable.
Okay.
And then sometimes it was chaotic in different periods and different eras.
So we'll get into that. So what would you say shaped your curiosity or interests, from your background, either from your childhood or whenever?
I think I think money was the thing that spoke volumes. Yes, I'm actually serious. I mean, if you don't have anything in common, at least money was something you have in common. So I said I wanted to be a rich man and a businessman, able to interact, because I wanted to find a common ground between cultures, between languages, between most people, that people can, thrive in. Occasionally, I think at some points in my life, those things began to change a little bit. But at that young age, that was my incentive.
Okay.
Back then. It was only later I realized that in order to be enriched, you really, really needed to pick up something that you're passionate about. You really need to pick up something that you're very, very interested in. You really need to pick up something that you're very focused on, because there are going to be situations in your life where if you don't have that passion, if you don't have that interest, if you don't have that focus on it, when you see certain things that are very tough when you're still engaged in it, you have this temptation of giving up.
Yeah.
Okay. But when you stay focused on it, you tend to have that consistency.
Yeah.
And it keeps on going.
Yeah, I mean that's how it is. If you look at like the most successful people, they're masters at that specific thing. That's what gives them that advantage. So yeah, you're definitely right about that. So what are some experiences that have influenced you, like from early on? When you're a kid, that's when you're most malleable, and
you're not gonna believe it. When when you are under a military regime, a lot of things tend to become very, very stressful. So you try to pick one or two things to try and relax.
Okay.
Right? So back then, when it was in the north, the Hausa music was terrible. The folk was terrible. I mean, they had very nice folk tales and stories. But the music, that thing felt like in my ear.
You didn't like it?
No, hell no.
Interesting.
But so I was like, okay, there's got to be. So I was like, back then, it was like a black and white TV, those cathode rays TV. So I turned it on. I was like, there's got to be something interesting on this TV. I don't want to hear the radio. Then, because we had a Chinese that was building a company, it was this waterproof bags. They were black, so they built a company. So in order to entertain foreigners that were residing around that area, because back then I had no idea why the content of the channel was relevant to a culture that was even outside of us. Then it was Chinese. I was like, that's interesting. I don't know why we have Chinese on the Hausa channel. So I'll turn it up. So there was subtitles and it was in Chinese. I think it was only many years later that when I was applying to do something like here, back then it's sideways, here is internship. I now found two Chinese people that were there. Back then I had no idea how far a Chinese will go, given the cultural and communication barriers. It seems to me that most of them tend to have that incentive of moving outside of the comfort zone and pursuing it. So those two Chinese guys were there, spoke Chinese, and then the interpreter that was Hausa was doing that. Then I got to understand, okay, now I understand the whole purpose of the Chinese channel, because back then I had no vivid idea of why certain contents existed in the first place. But later on, I realized that. I think it was like decades later I realized that.
Okay.
So
That's interesting. So tell me about your academic background.
I think I'm more of a visual learner. So I think if it's practical and it's something that is very consistent, it's something that I would tend to read and focus on. So about my academic background, I think it's about if it's enforced in me. Like as far as areas of my interest, I would say it was math,
Okay.
it was English, and it was social studies, it was economics, but nobody back then was very savvy in the STEM. As a matter of fact, people were back then were not that creative. That was way before people had even before desktops became very accessible to consumers. Because in the night, because desktop computers, this one like had this floppy disk.
Yeah.
Those things did not exist until what, like 1996, right? We didn't have that back in 1990s. So most people didn't have a way of how to compute.
Yeah.
Then the same thing with even physics. There was nothing related to STEM, like nothing. The only thing we had was agriculture, and the only thing we had was biology, and the only thing we had was nature. So everything, as far as natural STEM is concerned, was something that was very consistent. But physics, chemistry, anything that's artificial or man-made was not something that was available at the time. But as everything began to slowly develop, then my focus began to shift towards STEM.
Okay. So after high school, did you go you went to university? You told me you were a chemical engineer?
Yes, I was an industrial chemist at the time.
Okay.
I got admission into University of Jos.
Okay.
Before I had to convince my dad that I didn't want to do pharmacy anymore because I didn't like the idea of just being in one place. If it was pharmaceutical chemistry, yeah, I'm very, very distinct, but I don't like a situation where you just sit in one place and then it's not a bad job. It's not a bad role. It's not a bad, because my dad provided to me, so I cannot desecrate that profession.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so your father was a pharmacist?
Yes, he was a pharmacist. He wanted me to take over the business. As a son to a father, it's usually a man's responsibility as that heritage to take over from the dad.
Yeah.
If the firstborn didn't want it, the secondborn had to rise up to that responsibility. Otherwise, it seems very disrespectful. So I did it, but then I realized I had to really, really convince him that, look, I can do what's related to it,
Yeah.
but I can't do it as a profession because I don't see myself in it.
That's a very hard thing that a lot of people go through where their parents want them to be something, like go through maybe medical school, maybe engineering school. Some people, it's very hard to say, oh no, it takes a lot
Yes,
to be
it
like,
does take a lot.
this is what I want to do.
Yeah, they're not wrong.
I'm sure it took a lot of courage.
Because most of them really want a better future for their kids.
Yeah.
They want that security where it's even if you don't want to do it as a profession later,
Yeah.
you just have to have that foundation first, which is what I can agree on.
Yeah.
You just have to have it. Because there are people who have done banking, switch into becoming newscasters. There's some who have done PhD in electrical engineering, like Atkinson, and he has that foundation. It's easy for him to know that he can get back to it. And famous people even down to even people who are seeing themselves in it. Like, take for example, like Jeff Bezos. He was a computer science engineer who graduated, I think, in 2002? Or was it earlier than that, in the 90s?
Yeah.
Back then, we didn't have infrastructures, amenities, or anything related to computer science. And this man knew he wanted to sell stuff. This man knew that he needed warehousing. So he built his focus and his business around that. And if that education was part of it, that worked for him.
Yeah.
Okay. If that education was not part of that passion or compassion, okay, people can basically just steer themselves away from it. So I think the education in this scope is only if you're looking for, so for the parent side, what they're looking for is a way of securing their kids' future.
Yeah.
From the kids' side, what they're looking for is succession and progression.
Yeah.
Okay, something that will make them move forward.
Yeah.
There are going to be issues or instances where you have that option of choosing whether to continue the path that your parents set for you
Yeah.
or
But-
choose your own.
So, what do you think about? Obviously, you're right about your parents wanting the best for you, and they're like, "This is what you should do," because that's what they believe is right. Like, obviously, a parent won't give them their kids like bad advice. That's what they believe. But on the other side, if the person, that's the person's life, that's the kid's life. Obviously, their parents are gonna want the best for them, but it has to come down to the person that's gonna live the life. So some people go through, like, just don't say anything and just go through what their parents say, live, like go through university, go start their job, but they might be unfulfilled. They
That's
might
true.
be, and that's a very like hard place to be in. You can't even blame anyone. You don't want to blame anyone, but you can't
So you
even.
definitely have to find a middle ground that
Yeah.
can work. You have to find that ground where you can
Because
you can
the thing
compromise.
is, the thing is, your parents do know more than you. Like,
That's actually true.
yeah, you have to.
I don't like to admit it, honestly.
Yeah, but you have to take that into.
There's some areas I knew more than my parents. You gotta admit, there's some kids that knew more than even me. So
Yeah, but like as wisdom, like your parents lived like more years than you. They know, like, obviously, like from my experience, like my father wanted me to go through university, like be successful in what I believed in. He never really like pressured me into being a doctor or a pharmacist or like whatever. He was like, as long as like you're pushing yourself, as long as you're advancing, I'm good with it. And I was very lucky with that. Like he was very strict on some places, but I don't know how he got to this decision. But like
He was
I
very
would like
discreet.
I really like to appreciate that, because I wasn't really pushed through like, oh, you gotta do this.
you want to push through the hole of a needle.
Yeah, he was like, just be the best. Okay, let me see all of your grades. I want to see them all A's. But I wasn't gonna pressure. So when you mentioned that, I just wanted to like point that out, because a lot of people do struggle with this, because it's hard to speak up against your parents. Like, no, this is what I believe. And like most of the times, your parents are gonna be like, you know what, if that's what you believe, good. But you have to show it,
That's actually true.
Yeah.
If even in working places too, I think if you do meet just their requirements, then you have the option of choosing the path that you want to set for yourself.
Exactly. That's a very important thing. And you'll never regret saying that and starting your life how you want it. Obviously, it's going to be hard, but you're responsible.
Yeah.
So, what are some... So you told me you went to university. Sorry, I interrupted you, but... So, like, continue with your story.
Yeah, so I was at University of Jos. It was hard to get admissions, given the volume of people that tried to seek admissions to have this, because education was an equalizer as far as status, wealth, and distinct concerns, because the economy was very, very tough. And so securing that degree at least gives you a foundation. And just to deviate a little bit, I thought it was just Nigeria that was dealing with it. It turns out that later in life, when I began to explore more on the East region, it turns out that they also are facing even 10 times as hard compared to what I faced.
Eastern Nigeria?
No, Eastern region. So
Eastern.
if you look at the eastern region of Asia,
Okay.
you talk about Geico, which is the Chinese exam. Then you talk about the Indian
Oh yeah.
exam, and like,
Yeah.
oh my God! After hearing all the instructors, like,
Yeah.
get to
Professor
the
Bouchon
instructors, like,
also
I was
talked.
like, are you serious?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, from Bouchon's own case, I was
That
like,
was interesting.
so I was like,
No assignment, no quiz. Like our professor Bouchon last week. I was actually traumatizing to even hear it.
yeah, it was.
Imagine. It's just the end of the semester. Just take this exam. Yeah.
No homework, nothing to prepare you, nothing. You
Yeah.
have this compiled exam that,
Yeah.
if I had to imagine it, it just looks like a big book.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so how long does it take you to complete
We
something like
we
that?
have it too good. We have it so good. I feel like we're complaining. Everyone complains. Okay, but sorry.
But yes, for me, the admissions were tough. And yeah, equalizer was one of the key things. Industrial chemistry was one of the things. I didn't get to finish. I didn't get to graduate. So those are one of the things, because of some incidents and issues
Okay.
here and there. But those are the things that.
So, what were like these unexpected paths that happened that that you weren't able to complete it, or
There's so many of them, and I think it leads to a chain reaction. Like, it still happens even now. If you heard of ASU, which is Academic Staff Universities Union, something like that, most of the teachers usually go on strike because of them not getting paid. Sometimes crisis, such as religion or culture or political, tends to also affect the normalcy of the campus.
Yeah.
So then you have people having this education gap,
Yeah.
inconsistency. Then you have yourself even strangling, trying to even pay tuition,
Yeah.
which the federal government is supposed to subsidize, and that has been taken away because of the cost of gas
Yeah.
and refinery, which they were supposed to fix. And then you have this many people applying for the same school, like they have this number, this cutoff,
Yeah.
and you have to go through different channels to try and get admissions and secure admissions into school, that even people will now try to, even the wealthy and the people who turn to these private school are really struggling to even pay that 5 times cost of tuition just to keep that money sustaining that kind of environment.
It's very interesting you said that, because that's the same thing that's happening like in my country, like in Ethiopia as well, where there are universities all across the country, but it's mainly stable around the capital or maybe the south. But most of the famous universities, like there's war, there's it's unstable,
It's
and
unstable and chaotic.
it's very hard. I know one of my cousins went through this, where she went to a university. She was going for civil engineering, and it just got unstable. Like her parents weren't comfortable with her being there, and it's one of the biggest problems.
It's chaotic.
Yeah,
And I think, so those kind of things tend to even affect my, even graduating. Like, was supposed to take me like 4 years, took like 7 years of my life, God
Yeah.
almighty. From the strike, from the chaos, from everything, and even life and death.
Yeah.
And some parents who are trying to do their best to even support the kids, I don't even want to put that on this podcast,
yeah,
but one of them was, I mean, it was a hustle.
yeah,
But
yeah,
but I got the chance of even actually seeing where I can thrive.
yeah,
If you get the chance of where you can thrive, I think that's the thing that sets Nigeria, I think, on top of their situation. And most of them, they try to. One of the things I love about Nigeria, even despite the hardship, is that they have the ability to smile. They have the ability to be happy, just so that they don't lose that confidence, just so that they don't lose hope, just so that they don't lose sight. And I think that's the thing I think that makes some African countries very strong, because even despite the hardship, you don't want to lose sight, you don't want to lose hope, you don't want to lose your humanity
yeah,
to those hardships. You want to look at the bright side of things, because then that thing prepares you for something that you didn't expect.
yeah. That's true. By the way, we should lower the music. We're listening to
sorry.
music.
The music is making me quite comfortable.
Yeah, but yeah. So tell me, how has the definition of success changed throughout your life? Because I'm sure a lot of people go like, this is what I want, this is what success is. And now, like you said, you're 42 years old, so you've lived through it and you've like went through a lot, you've seen a lot. And how would you say it has changed?
I'll say, it's all about, I don't look at success as something definite. I look at something as a succession. You get to a particular point, you don't stay there, you keep on progressing, you keep on going. If someone is very successful and think they're complete, okay, they're likely going to fail or they're likely going to fall. And you can see that's happened in you can see that happen in Ferrari. Ferrari says, I don't need anything with my clutch. My clutch is just fine. Then Lamborghini comes in. Lamborghini says, hey, I don't need anything from you. Then another car comes in. I'm like, wow, so you guys thought you were successful. Then it's the same thing with some of the people who were elevating themselves. They're like, hey, I got my PhD. I'm like, congratulations. So where's your tenure? or okay, yeah, your PhD is fine. Okay, so how does that help me? If you're not a student or not a colleague, I'm not saying that. But if you're out there, like if you're a guy who's taking care of your company, like I'm a PhD, I'm like, how does that help my company? So, no, I'm serious. Because the person that says I'm successful, I'm like, okay, you're successful. But how does that help my company? So, and then you are a student who has graduated, like with your bachelor's. Okay, what's the next thing that you're going to do after that? Are you just going to still hold that piece of paper and not progress? Mm-hmm. So I look at success as succession. You get 1 point. You always have to get to, so I see that as a way of preparing you for the next phase.
Okay.
I see that as a way of preparing you to a certain point so you can look onward and keep on going. Mm-hmm. Because even when I would just use that, I'll use something that's very evident, okay? When IEEE won Program of the Year because of the paperwork and the rest that I did, I didn't stop at that. I said, we're going to move even further. Yeah. Okay. And I said, I'll go and support Nati as the chairman. So I said, I'm going to move forward. So then I began to okay, so what are the things I need to get better at? What are the things I need to improve? What are the failures that I was not able to accomplish that I need to do better? Okay. What are the things that are like a gap that I need to close?
Yeah.
So then I said, okay, we see that, okay, then there's a technical workshop. Let's go through it. Okay, the industrial tour. Some people tend to not know why this is important. So let's go to an industrial tour. Then, okay, I see myself, then me as a student personally, okay, I didn't think much in this particular direction. It's time that I relearned what I already learned to see what I could have done better. Okay, because even when you're a master's degree student, I'm not a master's degree student, but even from what I learned from master's degree student, it turns out from their perspective, if you're capable of relearning and still improving on that, despite what you already have, that's something you want to progress on. So success is,
okay.
So that's like,
how I understood it is like improvement, like always constant improvement, not like being fixated on one single thing, maybe one piece of paper, or just always improving yourself. But that's very interesting. So tell me about your role as the vice president and your role as, well, you were on the board last year as well in IEEE. And I know that you go through a lot of stuff, like with managing a lot of stuff. And you keep us on our toes. You keep us on our toes. And yeah, just tell me how you approach it, how you deal with like people,
What do guys usually call me? They call me brother every time, right? Or big brother.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
it's always like that. It's like,
yeah. So
he's always dropping advice. He's like,
and you know what big brother does, right?
Yeah.
If he sees something, if he knew something is about to go wrong,
yeah,
he will draw your attention. He'll
Yeah.
say, hey, I think you need to look at this. And then if you don't listen, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna let you learn the hard way. And then when something goes wrong, they'll say, hey, something bad happened. I'm like, well, guess what? You learn not to do that again, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have to micromanage anything. I let the people learn what they need to learn. But to answer your question, as the vice chair, it's just 4 simple roles to keep it simple. My own is to guide, support, assist, inform. That's pretty much it. And I do it for all board members. And as a vice chair, if he's not there, then I step into the role as the chair. And then and then that's basically the simple thing I do most of the time. And that's not just for board members, but all members too. That's actually the role of a vice chair mostly for any RSO. I could be wrong, but
So being on the topic of Big Brother, so what do you think is misunderstood by younger people about progress and patience?
expectations.
Okay.
Everybody has their own set of expectations. Like, I'm not sophisticated on electronics, okay? I'm not sophisticated on phones. I'm not sophisticated on all that stuff because I grew up without it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the fact that I was able to tinkle and know the inside of many things as technology began to improve, I know the ins and outs. And if you look at even how successful these corporations are, they are the same thing. Now, if you look at today's generations, some of them do not know that, okay? Like they've not seen how it started. But there are cases of where in the future, and yes, I'm going to predict this, there are cases in the future where you yourself, you know how to critically think for yourself, you know how to definitely decide for yourself, you know what is there, what's not there, right? And you know how those things or the context of your experiences tends to change and begin to develop into different sets of expectations as you go down that road. So you already know what to expect. Then the new generation in the future who are concurrent with their era are going to have this kind of expectations because they don't know what led to it. They already have that foundation. And you yourself, who has seen it all, will begin to start like even going down and saying like, hey, I think you need to, this is what I expect from you. I don't expect you to do this. You begin to even have yourself even beginning to say that. And then they will already have their own set of expectations like, hey, this is what I expect, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I don't think you know the half of it because I've seen it happen. So I know what those expectations are and your own, I'm not saying you personally,
Yeah.
but you tell them like your own, I don't think it's very realistic because I've seen it all.
Yeah.
So when you are talking about 2 different sets of expectations, like I said, if you're talking about the definite, what's your question again?
So like a lot of younger people.
Yeah, about misunderstanding, progress, and patience,
Yeah.
right? So when people are not patient to learn, okay, when people are not patient to adapt, when people are not patient to understand the circumstances they're in, when people are not patient to even see from the issue for what it is, okay, the expectation, I think, is the thing that causes a misunderstanding in so many levels and so many people. Maybe I'm political by saying this. When people are expecting politicians, I love my Igbo people very much because we didn't have expectations of anybody. We basically said, this is what we're going to do and we're going to do it because we know what it took to get there. So even before colonizers, even before our village turned into a very nice, good, modern hometown, we were the ones that did it. We didn't expect anybody to do it for us. We did it ourselves. And we progressed. And we were very patient. Okay? We knew we didn't have these expectations of expecting too much out of somebody. We just did it. Okay? But people who do not see it that way,
Yeah.
okay, tend to misunderstand
Yeah.
most things.
Yeah, you got to be patient, you know. A lot of people, including me, I've heard from my parents, from my uncles, it's like, be patient, be patient. I mean, being too patient as well, it's not really good, but having time to think through your problem and actually seeing what you want to get at, actually knowing what it takes to get there is like, basically, this is what I always say. Like, I always sharpen my knife, you know, or sharpen my axe or whatever, you know, if you go right to work with
If
it,
you're gonna cut something down, you gotta take the time to sharpen your
sharpen
axe or sharpen your
exactly.
knife.
So, yeah. So that's, I really believe that to get ready, like we were talking about it earlier too, like how I like, before I start something, how I like it to get structured. You're like telling me, but yeah, that's very important. So you mentioned earlier that you served for the National Guard of Minnesota.
Yes, I did.
Oh, tell me about that experience. And yeah,
You want to hear the good side or the bad side?
whichever one you choose.
Every veteran has their own story, but it's really taught me a lot to be prepared for anything. Yeah, be prepared for anything, and I think, and be prepared when you're facing stressful environments. Be prepared when you're under a lot of pressure. Be prepared when you're given instructions. Be prepared, I think, for almost and everything, and be very, very good at it. Okay, why would I say that? Because I didn't get the training on one of the exercises that we had, but I was like, so what am I supposed to do? I was like, okay, so I use what I got and try to make the best of it. And then, so my experience there, they're both goods and bads, ups and downs. But I say that it's actually made my mind in a way to understand that everything is in place for a reason. Everything is structured for a reason. Everything you do, you say or think, you have to be held accountable, because that is the thing that will determine the outcome of anything these days. And that's even way before the courts rule it. That's way before you even get hired or terminate an employee. That's way before you graduate and leave school, even with grades. All of that thing began to start kicking in. Even training was kicking in too. And there are times that events tend to play a role, and sometimes it's always good to keep good wits about yourself and what it tells you. Sometimes collectively, and most times collectively, and some cases as an individual.
So that's very interesting. So before we get into more of that, how did you get into like the National Guard? So you said you were in university in Nigeria.
Oh, that one, that's back in, so I got in the National Guard only when I was here.
Okay. Like what took you to that decision? Like, how did you decide?
So I
that?
was, well, to be honest, I wanted a roof over my head. Yes, I wanted a roof over my head. I was still in college.
Okay.
And so so one of my siblings wanted me to be a little bit more responsible because I was of age. I think I was 32, going to 32 at the time. They said, hey, you got to live on your own, because I can't take care of you in this phase. You got to learn how to look after yourself. I had no money. I had no control over my situation. So I was just looking for something that can give me some kind of security, some kind of safety, some kind of guarantee,
Okay.
and at least some stability in my life. And that was when I decided to make the decision to take up on the recruiter's offer after 18 months of conviction. And he walked me through the whole entire phase. Before, it was actually the Air National Guard, but they had their own share requirements. One of them was psychological. I don't know where that came from, but that one came much later. But that's when I joined the Army National Guard.
That's interesting. So tell me, what is like, if you have like one story that you can share that's always memorable, you know, being part of it?
I think it was my last exercise at Fort McCoy. And the thing you see in movies is not the thing you're going to see in real life.
What do you mean?
Okay, for example, if you're watching Predator and you see Arnold Schwarzenegger trying to create chaos, right? And throw bombs and all of that, yeah, everybody say, yeah, that's action. And that's not what you're going to see today. What people will try to do is what people will try to do is create a blackout, which is exactly what the contractors wanted to test us on. They created a blackout, like let's block out communications, different kinds of frequencies. I'm not kidding you, different kinds of frequencies. Let's think about cutting off power supply. And like, whoa. Let's think about cutting off power supply. I'm like, whoa. Then let's think about isolating. I'm like, whoa. I was like, what the? I was like, what the? Then I was like, so what? So I was like, what can I do? I'm not even trained for this. So I was like, okay. What do I have? And then back then I had a comrade. He was just 2 years in his contract. So I was like, okay. So I said, okay, we do have a Ethernet cable, right? Let's connect the phones. Okay, there has to be some kind of phone box. This thing runs very differently, right? So I was like, okay, the spectrum is very differently. That's the thing I learned from my STEM class, right? So I was like, okay, got it. So I just hooked it. So I was like, is this cable even actually working? It's not working. So I picked this fluke tester. I was testing the two ends of the cable. Okay, so I was like, it's working. All right, let's get the phones Let's get the phones on. We got that line and it was operational. You can contact command. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, now let's talk about eternally. We can't just go, what if it's distant? So I was like, okay. I gotta think. Last time I checked, you can actually go through. I said, last time I checked, I can remember what I remember from my physics class. So I was like, okay, what do I remember? What do I remember about frequencies? Okay, you can override another. Okay, yes, you can override another frequency. So that means the blocker can actually function as a channel just like your wave. So you got to ride the wave. So I was like, got it. So all I did was, I was like, what do I remember? So if you have a blackout and they blacked out this frequency, you have to find a way of how to just adjust it a little bit.
Yeah.
And then let it roll. I was like, now we didn't get the radios working outside, but we got.
So this was a military exercise?
Yeah, this was a military exercise. Like
so
it
was just a surprise. You were.
Yes, I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God, Jesus Christ. I was not trained. I was not prepared. My mind was like, what do I remember that I learned in class? Like that was the thing that I was like, this is the only thing that I think is going to save me. What are the instincts that I have? What is the knowledge that I have that is going to get me through this? That was the thing that kicked in. And then I was like, okay, when things settled, I was like, what if I tried to do something that was like a relay station? Would it have worked if I tried it? That was after the exercise was over. It turned out it wouldn't be successful.
Okay.
And then I said, what if I tried using a computer and I hooked it into an internet cable? Would it still work? I found out later it will not work. So that means that the fact that I was able to primarily focus on the primary objective of making sure we got this thing structured before we started thinking about sophisticated equipment was the thing that got me going. Because even when your car doesn't start, what's the first things that you have? Get the jumpers, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I'm going to get these jumpers. Okay, I'm out of juice. Is there a source that is very close by or somebody I can contact or somebody that will be willing me to at least stop my vehicle? I mean, your instinct based on what you've known will just like,
yeah.
And nobody prepared you. And you're like, oh, Jesus Christ. By the time you're done, you won't even know when you're exhausted. You just, after everything is said and done, I don't know. It's like when you're done with the day, you just lie in your bed and you just snore deeply like, oh my God. And somebody will say, you slept like 12 hours straight. I was like, oh my God, is that for real? I was like, so yes, that was one of the most memorable experiences. And it taught me to always rely instinctively on what you have versus what you think will help you.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay, so you were talking about your most memorable time in the National Guard. So I wanted to ask you, would like the thing that you talked about, is that the biggest lesson that you've learned in your opinion, or
yeah, I'll say
what's the biggest lesson that you've learned from serving the National Guard?
Yeah, I'll say make sure you follow your instinct and always be prepared to rely on it, because you probably will never be equipped to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
You probably will never be prepared to deal with it. You probably will never be anticipating it or see it coming, right? Because those things that I triggered that were my instinct, or the things that I knew, the knowledge, my instinct, my survival, and all of that are the things that are going to help you move forward. And because like I said, the thing that most people saw in Predator is not exactly what's going to happen, because that's the incident that took place, and that was the thing that was, and it was just an exercise. It wasn't real. But then I was like, now I understand, and now I have a better way of looking at things, and even you need to have also good, capable people. They'll be your second family.
Yeah.
You want to be surrounded by those people who are capable and know what they're doing, how they're doing, who understand their roles, duties, and responsibilities, just like you would for your own family, like you would for your own friends,
Yeah.
like you would if you're working at a company or a job. So you want to be around those people who are very competent and sure of themselves. Probably some of the people that are clumsy and the rest at what they do builds a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
But yes.
But I mean, you know what they say, like you're the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Yes,
So
exactly.
it's very important, where even here in university, if most of your friends are on top of their stuff, they're always like trying to get to a better position, trying to get better like internships or jobs. You see it like that, it etches on to you. You know, if you're surrounded by these people, you're gonna be like, huh, like what am I doing? Like how should I approach it? Because this guy's doing this. It's not like being jealous of someone, like being envious. It's about, but what, like questioning yourself, like this guy can do it. You know, we're in the same boat. Like why not me? And obviously this isn't this like I'm not phrasing it as a negative thing, but you're right about if you're surrounded. But if you're surrounded with people that are like always like just chilling, and you're like, you know what, this is normal. Like what I'm doing, if I'm not trying to get like
That's
better
why-
experiences.
Yeah, that's why I specifically say you got to be surrounded by
Yeah.
the right people
Yeah.
at the right time and the
Yeah.
right place.
I know. Yeah. That's very important. So after the Army, like when did you come to Minnesota State University, Mankato? What was that change
Because
like?
I got admissions. That was it.
Okay.
When I was out of the Guard, I began to refocus my attention on just completing the college, because I had so many factors, so many distractions, and all of that. So I went to Normandale for a fresh start, to restart that and finish within the course of the 2 years that I'm supposed to finish. And so I did. And I am very proud that I did that finally at Normandale. And then when I got and then I knew, then I applied to the University of Minnesota, and then I applied to Minnesota State University. Then I heard what the advisors were saying, and it was very, very difficult. I knew that I wanted to do something related to engineering. But it was Minnesota State University that gave me the ability to transfer my credits and got me the admission. And I even began to sort things out with my advisor, where I got to be a double major. So
That's great to hear. So you said you wanted to do engineering. Like what drew you to that? Was it like new technologies that are emerging?
it was
or?
this man, the instructor who taught computer architecture in Normandale, that told me that there are going to be situations that your firmware could change,
Yeah.
and you're going to definitely have to figure out how you are going to adjust your programming and all of that to fit that firmware. So I was like, in that case, then perhaps I will make my custom firmware to exactly the way I want my software to be.
Yeah.
So it's like a system integration.
Yeah.
So when I thought of I didn't know what it was at the time, but it was embedded systems engineering. So embedded software is different from your regular software programming. You already know that. Just like your embedded C is different from your C. I don't think they do it here, but if you are a tech person, you do have to build your IC circuit. You do have to load with a programmer. You've seen that, the EEPROM programmer?
Yeah.
You've seen it before?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you now have to have an AVR programmer created by MTEL that you have to also put in that. You've seen that, right? Not yet.
I haven't. I don't think
Uh-huh.
I'm familiar.
But those
with
things exist. So
Okay.
when you are a computer, so when you are trying to embed your software into your hardware,
Mm-hmm.
it will function just accordingly to the way you have compared. You figured out your memory management. You figured out your compiler. You figured out your processing speed. You figured out your computing power. All of that, just like you would do. I wouldn't say just like you would do with the way you assemble a processing unit,
Mm-hmm.
but in a way that you understand the architecture and the design and everything
Yeah.
with it.
Like having custom integrated circuits for
Yes.
like whatever you want
Yes.
to achieve.
Exactly. And given the way the innovation and the industries are going, having that customization is what's going to get you with either customers
Yeah.
or corporation. Because if you're given a task, okay, specific task,
Yeah.
you should be able to deliver that specific
Yeah.
outcome.
Yeah.
And what better way to do it than to be creative early
Yeah.
in that stage?
Well, that's like right now, especially like how we see Nvidia like being this popular right now. I mean, before obviously they were profitable because they made custom like devices for gaming. I mean, there's money in gaming obviously, but right now there's billions and billions of dollars going to like AI infrastructure, and they are the only ones, not the only ones, but the best ones that are making these
Yes.
devices.
Yeah,
So
that's because most of probably there's a technical term.
mm-hmm.
Like if you see GPUs, like I did release that on Math Central.
Mm-hmm.
There are different kinds of processing units. So they specialize in GPUs. So in their case, you can use your matrix that is three-dimensional in that processing unit. And it's a lot faster depending on how you do it versus linear,
Yeah.
right? Where you have just 1, 0, all of that. It just goes one way, one direction, all of that. You see the changes in the rest. But if you have a GPU, it can go a different direction. If you have a TPU, that's a different pattern. So that's one of the reasons why. But I also believe that NVIDIA began to excel exponentially. I like to use the word geometrically because you can actually scale it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but people can use exponentially. I mean, that's a bad term. That's what they use. You can use that to really actually determine the scale of how you want your AIs to have that progression and to have that becoming more demanding.
Yeah.
Because that's when NVIDIA began to grow. And they began to even build better ways of how to integrate their chips
Yeah.
and that board of theirs
Yeah.
into different techs, not just for AIs, but also for graphics, like they did in games.
Yeah.
Also for even computing power, and also even into building algorithm efficiency. Because if you did the workshop with Professor Hay,
Yeah.
she basically had thought that concept, and then getting certified for it. So those are the things that some people tend to look at it very differently. So it's not just the chips, it's the fact that the person was able to have a vision of where they want their tech.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I mentioned that because you were talking about working, like making devices that fit exactly what you want. And obviously you have a CPU that can do a lot of different things. Like it's in our computers, it's in our phones, but if you want to get this it's matrix multiplication for the neural networks, and we want to do this as fast as possible, you're going to have to go down to the transistor. and design it. And
design it from scratch.
Exactly.
With the wafer.
With the wafers, and you've seen those wafers.
Yes. So.
A lot of people, they don't like, they might see it, not know it, but like we're learning it in class. We see how to engineer it, and it's genuinely one of the most interesting things.
Yeah, back then, back in Minneapolis Central Library, there's this old book from 1976 where it does talk about how you make your processor.
Mm-hmm.
That book is so old that I just realized Intel doesn't release that kind of information anymore. So yes, so as they were in the developing stage, you would see all those things, but I think there will be a time where you don't even get to see the skeleton work of how things were made.
Yeah.
So you're going to see all of that disappear.
You know what's so interesting about this? I heard like someone was saying, we can't build the space shuttle right now, or like something like that. Is it like some kind of plane? And it's like, it's the information, you know what the shuttle does, like the space shuttle, you know what it does, but
you can't build it from scratch.
Build it from scratch because the people aren't there, or it's just like
something that's pre-existing.
Working on. Yeah. And it's very like, when you think about it that way, a lot of things, I mean, I'm not that deep into like most tech stuff, but that you could see it happening because right now, let's think.
You want the truth or the story?
The truth.
You really want the truth?
Story. I'm on my podcast.
If somebody discovers all your secrets of how you started your business, people will start making their own business.
So you think that it's the person that makes it that's like hiding the information, do you think?
Yeah, you don't want anybody like doing the same thing you're doing or figuring out how your system or this thing works.
And then it gets lost in like history and translation because the next person that comes, or the person that knew how to do it, died. And the next person was like, how did we do this? And everyone's like, I mean, it's just working. Why are you asking?
Yeah. I mean, most people will not want to reverse engineer or will not want to start from scratch.
Yeah.
Most people feel intimidated to do that. Like, for example, let's say you wrote it should never happen to you. Let's say you start a class, right? Well, let me give the viewers this understanding. Let's say you start a class, you started a course, right? You're taking the exam, right? You're successful. You've gotten that one done. You're taking the second one, you got that one done. Hey, congratulations. Now you're about to get to your final. And they said, hey, everything that you did from exam 1 to exam 3 is going to be at the final. Your notebook is gone all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And you're like, and then they give you a plain blank notebook. Are you going to sweat or are you going to panic that you have to start from scratch?
You're going to panic.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly the way people will feel when they have to start from scratch. They will panic.
Yeah.
And most people don't like to panic.
Yeah.
and most people don't like to panic.
Even with the course that you said, for example, like, you know how to do like derivatives, for example. Like, you know how to do it. Like, that just works. You're not going to go back to it. Like, let's say you just know how to derive an equation, but you don't know how it, like, obviously we learned this in calculus. We learned this in calculus or geometry or whatever again. But at some point, you're going to be like, okay, I just know how to derive it. You might, I'm not saying it will happen, but it's like that, like something is working. You're using it every day. But if you don't fundamentally understand it, it might just get lost.
It's true. And that's what's happening with professors too. They will not teach you fundamentals. They're like, I'm so far in depth into my
well, I mean, and universities,
they're not going to start from fundamentals.
You gotta assume the students like went through high school and they gotta know something. Like, it's no professor is not gonna teach you how to derive something.
Come on.
I personally think.
I mean, you're absolutely correct. I was actually telling somebody about this because even the person was even telling me that what is it different for high school students to get into college compared to people who got high school diplomas from outside the country? What if the people did their high school here? And I told them, have you seen the people now? They're very distracted right now. I was like,
I don't think it's just a distraction though.
Yeah, it's not just a distraction. There are a lot of factors, but most people in high schools, not most people, but some schools, they prepare you for college, but there's some schools that don't. But there's also an incentive too. So when people have that incentive, it's the thing that will even drive people to even start from the very beginning, even if they don't feel, even if it makes them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. And sometimes there are cases where incidents are the things that actually drive somebody. But then they do need some temporal way of, looking at it very, very differently and letting them know that they're progressing. So, yeah, most people do, like professors, I mean, they will definitely teach you the basics if they are up for it. But that's if they are choosing to relearn it.
It's
and
very
do
rare.
it.
It's
And they need a great deal of patience.
You know what the funniest thing is? Sometimes you're in class and the professor's like, so it's very easy. You get this, right? And everyone's like, and then it's like this theorem, this mathematical theorem, for example. And they wipe the board, and then in 5 minutes, they just like talk through, like, it makes sense too. You understand it. And they talk through something and explain, it could be like a topic where it took you like a month in high school, where it's like, okay, first you learn this one day, and then your exam, like, you're tested with that and stuff like that, and it goes to the final. Maybe it could be one course in math, and the professor just takes 5 minutes, and it's like, bah, 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 bah. And everyone's like, oh, wait, we remember now, let's continue. Like, it's very, like, it happened, I think, in electronics or like last year, where the professor was like, you guys know how to do this, right? And everyone's like, kind of. And then it's like, she just wrote like one board, and it's like, oh yeah, let's go back. And yeah, it's a very interesting experience.
Because when you're doing, because I know in electronics one, it's mostly linear circuits. Then in circuit analysis one is mostly linear circuits. And then in circuit analysis two, it changes a little bit because you'll be thinking about filters and the rest. But then when you're doing electronics, those things completely become non-linear, because then you're using MOSFETs and you're using different kinds of things to modify or change certain things in your circuit. That is completely non-linear.
Yeah.
So in this case, my own is that even though some schools prepare you, like I always emphasize that sometimes you have to prepare yourself instinctively with what you already have, if you're going to step into something very, very new, like a new topic, a new subject, and the rest. Like, you're not going to believe it, but my English began to improve just right after I finished teaching kids how to pronounce, spell, and recognize letters and the rest. I'm not kidding you. As in, I don't even know where my mind began to wire. I was teaching them these fundamentals. It almost felt like I was actually learning with them and teaching them. And then I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe that I know so many words intuitively and how they're made, because I was also learning with them.
Yeah.
And growing. I was like, oh my God, this is very, very serious. Now I know what instructors and professors feels like. And I said, now I understand that concept. Because if they start, and that's what even makes Ryan Shirk even a better teacher, because I realized that he was actually learning with us as he was going with the basics, and he was advancing. I was like, that's interesting. And just like you said, when people have advanced to that stage, they get those fundamentals or those basics tend to get lost. And like I said, most of them see the hustle of starting from scratch, that most of them will hesitate, but they will do it only if, based on this testimony that they're relearning all that stuff with you, that they'll begin to appreciate it even a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, if you learn the fundamentals, you can never, like, you can never wake up one day and just forget how to spell, or like how to, like you said, English, for example, like you'll never forget how to speak.
Spell,
because you had to learn it from the fundamentals.
Yes, exactly, with the group of people who were expecting much out of you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And with engineering too, the fundamentals is math, and then it goes to circuits. Like we see it. Like I'm a junior right now. Since freshman year, like you see how you progress with circuits. Like it could have taken us 2-3 classes to go over this topic, and now you just have to know it. Like the basics. Now it's just like, you don't even think about it. You just know, you just feel it. You know?
This is true.
Yeah.
But there's also a situation where you do actually have to practice those things as
Yeah,
well.
obviously,
to be
yes. Yes.
consistent.
You do. But what I mean is like when you start from the fundamentals, it's just like etched into you. You don't lose it. And yeah, that's a very important thing.
Okay.
What would an advice? Obviously, you've been you've been giving me advices, and I see you always giving advices to people, to students. But what's something that you think is very important for every student to know? I mean, I asked you about like progress and patience earlier, but like with you phrasing it however you want, like something, the weaknesses that you see in most students, because I mean, it's very rare that like for example, me and you were in the same class. There's maybe a 20-year gap, but you have more years, you have more wisdom, and you see things in different ways. And you obviously you always give like you always do give advice, and I hear it, but like blank slate, you just see me, and then what's one thing that you're like, Absir, you got like this is something that you should know, or an advice that you're like,
That's going to be very difficult. I don't know how. I don't know how. To be honest, I really don't know how. Because I run into people and I don't like to bring my faith into this very often. But I think my typical example is God.
okay,
Why do I say that? Because I'm like, he observes me very closely, quietly in the rest. And then when I'm asleep, it's like a whisper or a message letting you reflect very deeply and thinking about what he was trying to tell you. Then it's the same thing with parents. Maybe, I don't want to say this, maybe people are listening. Maybe you become the first generation long after they're gone. And then you have that, you have that echo where you know what their presence is and they have watched you, they've seen it, you know what that would tell you. Then it's the same thing with myself. When I see when I see myself in you, okay, I instinctively ask myself, what would I tell myself back then? Or what would I tell this person that I see that seems like something of myself in such a person? What would I do? And that instantly just tells you, you just have the right words. You just have to choose I think if you choose the right words very carefully, like if you're talking to a person that is similar to yourself, that right words tends to just come out just like that. And that depends on if you're not trying to be too selfless, you're not trying to be too selfish, but you are just putting it based on the issue itself. Because you don't know anything much about that person. You don't know anything, they don't know anything much about you. So your focus should just only be on the issue that stands between you
okay,
and that person.
okay. So it was a kind of a dumb question.
What do you mean it was a dumb question?
Well, I mean, yeah, how you explained it to me right now.
So the advice for
It depends on the situation.
Yes,
It
so
depends.
it depends
Okay.
on the situation
Okay.
and
Okay.
the person.
Well, I'll improve my questions in the future. But yeah, those are mostly the stuff that I want to talk about. What is one topic that you want to talk about? If
You
not,
say you wanted to talk about tech stuff.
yeah, obviously I wanted to talk about. Well, we started it, but we really didn't advance it.
People are going to see, just like you see water and food, those are commodities. Your tech and everything will also become a commodity. It is a commodity in China. You cannot do anything without a tech.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if you live that life, you're going to see that. In Japan, wow, I want to see Japan to see if it's true, because it seems to me that they have everything in order and they know how to detoxicate themselves from tech stuff. And then all of a sudden, they're so engrossed in the tech stuff, they're so advanced in it. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah, how can you know so much? Because even this person, Tom Collin, who went to university here, to get the authenticity of his tech, he goes to a Japanese university to learn about data storage based on his background that I learned about him. Like, you went to a Japanese university. Why didn't you invest your university here? I was like, so you're looking for authenticity, huh? Yes. I was like, so when it comes to technology that's very authentic, because even I'm not kidding you, even their advertisement, they say, hey, you're going to put exactly what you put on your package, exactly what you're going to put that is inside the package. I'm like, are you kidding me? Authenticity is strong over there. Very strong. Like, wow. So even your tech, it has to be authentic. Even clothes, authentic. Food, authentic. Everything authentic. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And these guys are 100% strong. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Even swords, kite, anything. I was like, wow. So it puts all of us to shame. Like, we thought that we thought we had a standard. No, they have authenticity to the core.
So you said technology is gonna be a commodity.
Yes.
Like how do you see that going in the future? Like, is it gonna be a very
People will depend so much on it that it will be like their life depends on it.
do you see that as a good thing or something to be concerned about, or
It depends on
like how we should approach it? Like,
I would say it depends. It does have some concerns. One of them, for example, like almost some people cannot do anything without their phone these days.
true.
They just have to have it on them.
Guilty.
Some people cannot do without a laptop. Some people
Guilty.
cannot do without a car.
Guilty.
Some people cannot do. Hey, clothes and shoes are very, very important.
yeah.
That one is very, very essential. Nobody wants to see anybody butt naked. But, I mean, and then somebody wants to be 24/7 on social media, trying to get people's approval and attention consistently. And I'm like, because even in China, even downed it down that, okay, people seem to be going on social media and saying something that they're not even expert on. Okay, that does it. Hey, get your certificate, put it on your social media account before you talk about that subject.
I heard about China
Yeah, they
forcing people
decided
to,
that's enough.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to create disinformation and disillusion on so many levels.
that'll
and
actually
then-
solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, and then you have the government here that is saying, hey, guess what? Your TikTok is really actually so personal and it's not really delivering what other people in other different regions are benefiting from. Why do we get why would we get a terrible service? We don't deserve this. That they decided that, okay, let's censor this thing because this doesn't seem right. And then they just said, okay, we need to purchase this TikTok from them if possible. So I see, like I said, I see that affecting and influencing people's lives and judgment, that even some people, if they're not very careful,
Yeah.
they will get lost in it. Like I just showed my friend, one of my BFFs from high school, a video of a hippopotamus certainly pooping in a cheetah's face, like that when he was still biting onto the tail. Knowing that we know our biology very well, we said that's not a future in hippopotamus.
Yeah.
We were able to instinctively tell the difference.
Yeah.
That's not real. That's an AI. Okay? Then it's the same way if you are on your phone based on your contacts. Okay? You hear the tone of the voice and everything, but when you hear very closely the dialogue and the context of the talk, you immediately, if you see a deepfake, you say, no, that's not my friend. That's somebody who's impersonating an AI of my friend. I don't think it's that person. And then if you are on your laptop and you see some malice software on it, and you're like, wait a minute, I have used my laptop for like years. I don't think this is how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
Something is wrong. It's just like including your car. If you love cars, okay, if you know something is wrong, you can instinctively tell the difference. Like somebody's not very attached to the car, but the person was like, I've driven this car,
Yeah.
but I noticed something ain't right with the engine. When people are like, I love the car, I love the luxury of it and the rest, I'm like, okay, so you're not thinking about important stuff like what happens if your car runs out of charges or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, they were so focused on how it works versus what is the likely of something bad or something good about to happen.
So, like, I would like to go back to what you were saying about like us being very dependent on our phones and our like laptops or whatever. I genuinely don't think we could really go back to a world without phones. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but now what we're seeing is this new technology with AI is, you said, we're dependent, and I don't think we can go back from using our phones. But now there's this new thing with AI where it's like you don't have to write that technical. For example, if you want to write an email, you're just going to tell Chat or Gemini, you're going to be like, oh, I want to write this technical email to this person. It's like perfect and it's good. I mean, if we can communicate through that, I don't think it's a bad thing. Obviously, it has its disadvantages, but what do you think? What's your opinion on that? On this new technology that's coming in, and we're learning to use it. We're being very relied on it.
Like you just answered your own question. If you depend on it so much, it's really hard for you not to depend on it anymore because it becomes a normalcy.
But now, for example, if we take for our phones, for example, we're very dependent on it. But it's no one's like actively saying, let's stop using our phones. You don't. It's not like a big priority right now.
So to answer your question, I think if people found their life is at ease, people will rather get used to it.
Yeah.
I think that's what drives most people. So if people feel like not writing tests and the rest is something that is going to put their mind and everything at ease, it becomes a new normalcy.
Yeah. So for example, if you're going to use it to do your quizzes on like for school, you're really missing out. Like that's a disadvantage. But I see a lot of advantages. Obviously, if you're not putting in that much effort, it's going to be like, oh, you're lazy. You don't want to do this. But there are advantages with this new, like with artificial intelligence, how it makes us faster. Like I don't have to, let's say I'm writing a program to do something and I don't have to sit there like our professor was talking about it, where to debug something, it might take him 2 weeks.
Here's the thing that most people don't know. There are areas where there's an error in certain things and the person will not be able to recognize it immediately.
Yeah.
That's with AIs. That's even the same thing as we mentioned earlier, like your car. Mm-hmm. There's some error, which is something that might go wrong and you will not be able to recognize it immediately.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with your calculator. If you do not know exactly how to do the computations manually, you might run into an error. Maybe, here's an interesting testimony. You know this Casio with this solar?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, this calculator is rechargeable. I can do all of my calculations on it when it first came out. I noticed that one line was missing. And you know what's the worst about it? I was taking a test.
No way.
Yes. And I was like, oh my God, I better know this calculator so much. And I don't know what this last digit is. If I get it wrong, I'm screwed. Oh. So now I was like, okay, I manually have to do this now. So I was like, okay, this is that. So is that an 8
but so,
or
okay,
9?
Okay, so this is a great thing that you brought up. So would you say the creation of the calculator, the computer, to compute, like to do calculations, do you think that has made us a dumber species or more dependent? Obviously, no one's going to do like matrix multiplication right now, right?
No, it doesn't.
Or not even that, but multiplications. We used to have like people that used to multiply for space.
To answer your question, I think it's made people even more dependent. And what's even worse is that the companies are even looking for ways to even make people or consumers more dependent on it.
Well, from the company's perspective, obviously they, like a calculator company wants to sell a lot of calculators an AI company wants a lot of people to use the AI. So like if we think about it as, for example, the calculator, like what's your opinion? Like I don't see the obviously there are bad sides, but like it being detrimental, like it has helped us so much where we don't have to sit down and do all this computation on paper, where we can just put in digits and then it gives you what the answer is.
Here is something that might scare you, all right? And this is probably going to, it won't scare me, but it will scare you even long after I'm gone and you, is that there will come a time where somebody is so good at doing things that he or she doesn't have to depend on versus the people who depend so much on it, and the person who depends so much on it is the one that has no control, and the person who can choose to depend and not depend on it is the one that has total control of everything and anything. Like I can basically take the iPad from somebody and say, figure this out on your own, and the person just gets scared. I could just take the person's computer or make something go wrong with it, and I tell the person, see if you can get your work done. You understand? And then the person will try to find different ways of how they can get things done, and then I'll coerce them or persuade them to do things to my own bidding.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
can see, because that's exactly what's happening in China. When they get people depending on their tech so much, it's hard for them to not do anything without. And the people who can do it without and know the ins and outs are the ones in total control.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that is based on the book in 1984. So if you do not understand your stuff, because even me, I told my younger brother that if I'm going to own something, I have to know the ins and outs of everything. Then if I'm going to learn something like I do with courses, I have to learn the ins and outs so that I don't forget it. And
I mean,
that instinctively prepares you so that when people feel like you can do, because even long after I'm gone, when people,
so for example, your laptop, you own it, right? You use it, but you don't understand it that much. Like if Apple brings out a software update and it automatically updates and it's just this new thing, you don't know it as much as you think you know it. You know what I mean? So we're already living in that world. I'm not like saying it's all good with it. It's like there's no disadvantages here and there, but like if we can look at it in with an optimistic point of view as well, where okay, there's this tool right here that I can use to be more efficient, to get more done. And I don't use it to get more distracted, but I use it to get to my goals closer. Like I personally have benefited from it. I would say like a lot because my work, like for example, I do this podcast. I have a lot of classes. I have a lot of work. I have a lot of projects. Like it really helps me to stay organized, to to be like to solve my problems quicker and
yes,
everything.
yeah, I
And
get your point.
yeah. So I see it from that point of view, but someone else can see it from a different point of view where we're just being more dumber. Like people are going to universities, they're not learning anything. They're just doing their quiz. Their quiz could be done with AI. That's it. Bam, bam. And you get an A, whatever. But what did you learn, man? Nothing.
Nothing.
So from that point of view too, I get what you mean. You're looking at it from that point of view where you don't really know what's happening. You just use it to do whatever. And at the end of the day, someone does hold like the pipe or whatever, and they can close it. And then you're like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But if you're using it to be more efficient, maybe you could be like, okay, it's a little harder, but I
Yes.
know.
So this is what I learned from India, and I love them. This is their nature, okay, and their background. I love them very much. Is that they do it from two sides. They do it in a way that it makes their work and makes their life and everything very efficient. Then they also look at it where if it's not efficient, what they can do to take care of it. That's the mindset that I think everybody should have. If this thing is going to be efficient, good, but always be prepared for when it's not there. If you have that, you are good. If you do not, if that person is not ready for it, then they're very vulnerable. Because Japan is doing that, India is doing that. Uh, Interesting enough, Europe is doing that. I don't even know how German even managed to get the trash out of space so quickly because they were like, imagine that heat in the atmosphere. That was back in the 90s. They were the ones like, we're good and very machinery, right? And we know we can build space rockets and the rest. What if we have too much trash out there? So they were like, maybe we can do something that we don't have to build rockets every time. So they were like, maybe we can do maybe we don't have to build rockets from scratch. Maybe we can do something without requiring building more rockets or a new vehicle. So when people have the tendency to prepare for contingencies, maybe maybe I'm trying to speak with big tones or something like that. No, I'm not trying to do that. When people are trying to have that mindset of equipping themselves for different case scenarios, not only can it prepare them to work efficiently and effectively, but they also have to prepare themselves for scenarios. Because that's one of the things that I took from the military, just to review.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that I even had to prepare people in AmeriCorps, as a tutor in AmeriCorps, and even teach younger people. This is what you can do differently. That is what I will try to do when I see a person, when I look into a person, and tell them, if you run into this thing, this is what you can do to get out of that disadvantage.
Yeah.
Because I found myself, and there's some areas in your life that you are at a disadvantage, that your instincts will kick in and say, somebody taught me of this is what I will have to do if something were to happen. Then if it works well and your technology and your laptop and everything is good for you, that's good. That's something that can help you become more productive and efficient. But always have that mindset of what if that is not there.
You're right. You're right. I agree with you. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. I was waiting for a long time to have you on the podcast. I'm happy we did it. And yeah, any final thoughts?
Why am I here? I'm just kidding. So I think what I would like people to take away from this podcast is that I personally don't have anything against anybody. I don't. I look at the issue and I look at things for what it is. I know people have said I'm very judgmental. That's understandable, but it has nothing to do with me personally. I just look at the situation and I tell you as it is. I can tell you that was the thing that got even some professors angry with me. I got friends angry with me. I got my family angry with me and all of that. But at the end of the day, when they look back, I'm like, I will sleep in my bed knowing fully well that I said what needed to be said. And it's not to offend anybody, but to put it as it is. And then if the person now looks back, the person knows that somebody did actually tell them. Okay, because I wasn't told most of my life. There were things that I did in the past that nobody told me about. They didn't even they didn't sit me down to talk to me about it. They didn't sit me down to have the right words for me. They didn't sit me down to set me on the right path. Some of them did. And that's one of the things that helped me. And funny as it is, 30% of the way my mind is right now that made me think a little bit differently, I owe it to my pen pal in Habam in Haojun province in northeast of China, because we actually did sit each other down and we had a total different mindset. And we looked at the situation for what it is. And if God help me and I find this person, I'm really going to marry this person because I think my life is ahead. That doesn't mean that, hey, if you're ladies, if you're out there, that doesn't mean that you're not a good trophy wife, okay? But the point I'm trying to make here is this, is that I look at things for the way they are, and I'm not trying to make it personal, okay? And sometimes you have to, and the takeaway also is to, even though I'm old, I know in my right mind, nobody at this age will want to go back to school and work with and learn with kids that have this 20-year gap. Mm-hmm. Okay, but it was this person in Kazakhstan, that's very close to, I think, Kazakhstan, something like that, that passed this message. And she said, you want to be able to finish what you started. And that's in honor to my father and my uncle because they went through a lot and they really wanted to see that progression. They wanted to see that success. If they were alive, they would want to see that. And that's the thing that is my drive. And so I want people to keep that in mind, that everything that you're learning here is not in a way to overshadow or say that it doesn't align. It's something that you have to really think very deeply about, because I'm looking at it in ways that people will not expect. So, all right. Is that it?
Thank you for your advice and your final thoughts. And I'm really happy you're on the podcast. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.